Hi everyone, good morning. My apologies for the technical difficulties. They say to err is human, but to really mess things up requires a computer. So that's where we are this morning. I'm just going to share my screen with you because I do have a little quick presentation that I do want to share with you guys today. Let's see where we are. Right, can everybody see my little screen and the topics that I've got? 3 skills I wish I'd built at the start of my career. So thanks very much to GirlCode for this opportunity to speak with them today. For those of you who don't know me or haven't met me, my name is Elmarie Grant. I work with a company called Synthesis, and I head up the academy. So my job really is to make sure that our own employees have all the skills in the emerging technology that we work with, that they will need, but also more than that, that our customers can engage with us on all these platforms and that they are enabled to deliver the services the way that they
Elmarie Grant.
There we go. Hello. So I can hear someone else's voice there. All right. So Synthesis has been around a long time, and I encourage you to go and have a look to see what we do. We actually have been working from home for quite some time as well, in response to the current situation within the country. But one of the things that I did realize that regardless of how much you work from home and how much work you actually have to do, there's quite a lot of other stuff that you get to do in between. And one of those things is that I've been binge watching Netflix. And so the one series that I've been really getting into is something called Timeless. And the premise is quite an old one, the idea that someone builds a time machine and then sends people back in time to go and save history. Really, really great. So not a new one at all, but it did make me think about this idea of what we would say to ourselves if we could travel back in time and if we could give ourselves advice to be better at what we do and to do things differently. And so when I got this opportunity to speak to you today, I thought that would be a really great place to start with. What are the 3 skills that if I could go back in time and meet myself at the start of my career, what are the 3 skills that I would encourage myself to go and build, to actively search out and to actively work with? And so that's what I want to share with you today. The thing about a skill, though, is that it's not just something that you inherit or something you are born with. Skills really are about actively and deliberately going out to find the information that you need and then practicing that, really mastering it, and then implementing it in your day-to-day life. So when I talk about skills, think about it as something that not just falls from the heaven that you are endowed with, but things that you really have to practice and be deliberate about in your daily practice. This here is our beautiful planet Earth. We live here, we know quite a lot about it, we study it, we explore it, and it's a beautiful and amazing place, and we are all inhabitants of the same sphere. But today, I don't want to look at where we are. I really want to look at where we are going. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are going. Not quite as pretty a planet as our own home planet. This is the red planet, or Mars. Since 1997 or so, NASA has been sending robotic vehicles to this particular planet to try and help our understanding of what this particular world looks like. And the reason why this resonated with me is that they've named these particular rovers names that I think corresponds very closely with the 3 skills that I wish I had known at the start of my career. The first rover that I want to talk about is actually a double whammy. It's twins. They were called Spirit and Opportunity. They looked exactly the same. They were deployed at exactly the same time. And we all know that while Spirit went offline quite some time ago, the Opportunity Rover sent images back to us as late as early last year. And this, in fact, is the last image that the Opportunity Rover sent back to us. I like this codependent idea of spirit and opportunity. So when we talk of spirit in terms of skills, what does it really mean? The first thing I wish that I had known at the start of my career is that the best way for me to really be successful is to be my own authentic and real self. That trying to be someone else's version of me or trying to fit into somebody else's mold would only bring me very short-term success and actually would just add to a lot of pain and suffering and stress and effort to try and be something that I was not. And so my first skill that I wish that I'd known is to find my authentic spirit, the real me, who I really am. Now, this isn't always easy. Especially when we first enter the world of work, we really want to fit in and we want to make sure that we understand the world that we live in. And I think that's absolutely valuable and good and wonderful, and we should completely support that. But I think within that space, there is space for us to be ourselves, to really say, well, this is what I bring to the table. This is the uniqueness that is me. These are my strengths, the things that I can play towards, but also these are the things that I might not be quite so good at and that I really, really have to delve into and develop and spend time on improving. And so when we talk about this idea of spirit, my best advice to myself would be to make sure that I find a good mentor. Now, I know this has been mentioned today already, but it really is such an incredibly important part of making sure that I can see myself in the way that other people see me. You all know this experience. You go shopping for a dress and you walk into the dressing room with this massive big mirror in front of you and a try on the dress, and it just looks strange. You can see that it's just not really you, and you probably end up not buying the dress. A really good mentor is like a really good dressing mirror. They show you exactly what there is to be seen. They show you all the great things about who you are, but they also help you to identify the things that may not be so great and that you can actually go and work on, go and fix, go and spend time on and pay attention to so that it doesn't hinder you in the workplace. So finding that spirit is really, really important. The second thing that I would advise is to be brave with this self-exploration. Self-exploration can be very daunting and can sometimes be very painful if we have to uncover some pieces of ourselves that we don't really like or that we're not necessarily comfortable with. But it's a very powerful way of making sure that we understand where our power really lies and where we can operate from. One of the things at Synthesis that we encourage all our employees to do is a program called future authoring or self-authoring. And you can just go and Google that, or otherwise I'll send you a link later on where to find this. The idea behind this really is to take a deep introspective look into where you want to be. What are the things that you think are important? What are the big and lofty ideals that you have for your own life? And not just for your career, but broader than that. And then bringing all of those ideas back into how that connects with who you are now, how you respond now, and how you prepare yourself and help yourself get to that best version of who you really are. That's spirit. But I said to you, spirit and opportunity were twin rovers, and it really is, because once you know who you really are, you can really start using all those strengths to find places where you can be this unique version of you. And that's about looking at opportunity and finding it, or seeing a challenge and finding the opportunity within that. Quick story from my own career. Very early on in my career, as was mentioned in my bio, I did some project management work. And as I was very young and inexperienced, I pretty much said yes to any kind of project that came my way and tried my best to make them work and deliver them in the way that the organization I was working for expected of me. But very soon I realized that I was saying yes to projects that really weren't great. They either were over budget, or the client had been promised things that we couldn't deliver, or the project teams themselves had moved on to other projects, and I was stuck really with projects that were limping along. And I sort of started looking at this portfolio of projects and started thinking, am I the death of projects? Is this where projects go to spend their last days before nobody can actually save them? And it made me feel quite despondent. I then chatted to my mentor about this, saying, I really don't feel like I'm adding much value here. I'm trying my best. We are eventually delivering all these projects, but I really feel like when there's any kind of opportunity for amazing work, I end up with these really difficult projects that are already in trouble. Why is that? And my mentor said something really interesting to me. She said, what is the opportunity here that you are not seeing? And in fact, when I sat back and thought about this, the opportunity was that I was actually the hero. I was the cowboy right at the end of the movie that rode in and saved the day on those projects. And once I realized that that was my unique strength, that I could take these ailing, failing projects and actually deliver them to a stage where the client was happy, I actually had a purpose. And what that enabled me to do was every time I was assigned a project like this to say, yes, I'm happy to take this on and we will absolutely deliver this. But can I ask for better resources? Or can I ask for more money? Or can I ask for more time? And it really empowered me to deliver those projects in the best way possible. So spirit and opportunity definitely go hand to hand. The next Mars rover is this one. Now, ladies, if you want to think about your selfie game, it doesn't get much cooler than this picture. This is the Curiosity rover, which is currently on planet Mars. And this is the selfie taken by this rover on the planet. Definitely the coolest selfie ever. The name of this rover says it all, Curiosity. For those of you who have younger siblings or maybe have children on your own, you'll know that the reason why children can be so incredibly exhausting when they're small is because they're curious about everything. When they crawl, they want to crawl everywhere and stick everything in their mouths. When they start speaking, the first question they ask is why, and you have to come up with all these extraordinary answers to all their very many questions. And in fact, as we grow up, we sort of moderate this ability to say why, to be curious about the world, to try and explore everything around us. And I think this is something we need to explore again. This is really a useful skill that I wish I deliberately cultivated at the start of my career. The easiest way to build your curiosity is to just ask more questions. Don't just say yes or assume things are the way that other people tell you that they are. Ask the questions. Why are they like that? Who made them this way? What else can we do? Where does it come from? Can it be a different way? Are there other opportunities here? And by asking those questions and creating this curiosity around the world we live in, we really give ourselves an opportunity to expand our own knowledge. It's also about reading vociferously. One of the best skills that I've ever had was the ability to not just read what I think is interesting or what social media gives me, but actually to read more widely than that. And especially in times where we don't have all the amount of people connection that we normally have and may have some personal time or downtime, reading is a great way to expand your horizons. Read everything. Read things that you think you aren't interested in, because what you might very well find is that you create a curiosity and an interest in that particular field. And once you've read something, go and ask yourself, where else can I find the information that is contained here? Is it true? Go and corroborate your sources. Go and make sure that things that you believe and the things that you read really are true and can be found in more than one place. And that way, you make sure that you stay on top of your game all the time. The best way to innovate is to understand the world around you. The other way to stimulate your curiosity is to stimulate your curiosity about people. Meet as many people as you possibly can that are not like you. Go and meet people that are in other fields. Go and meet people that do other things. Go and meet people who don't come from the same background as you or have the same interests as you. And then ask them to tell you a little bit about what makes them tick. People generally want to tell you a lot about themselves. And so asking them these questions and listening to them and really exploring who they are is a really great way of expanding your own horizon, but also to fight the institutional bias that we sometimes find in organizations where all the employees are the same or where we all have the same point of view. The best organizations are the ones where we cultivate this extreme variety of backgrounds and views and opinions. So go and find people who are not like you. Go and cultivate that curiosity. And what's interesting about this people curiosity is that that's the way also to develop your EQ, this emotional intelligence that we are often accused of not having within the IT or the technology or the STEM space. This is the way to really go and build it. So curiosity. The last of the Mars rovers is this one, and it doesn't actually exist yet. In fact, it will be launched early next year to go to the Red Planet, and its name is Perseverance. Times will be tough. There is no doubt about that. At some point in your career, you will work with a difficult co-worker. At some point in your career, you will write code that just doesn't work. At some point in your career, you will make a mistake. At some point in your career, you will have to, very likely being women, have to balance motherhood with your work. All of these things are challenges. And the best way to get through them is to just get through them. Building your personal resilience, or what is sometimes referred to as grit, is an incredibly valuable strength. An incredibly valuable skill to have. And like all other skills, you have to practice at that. But you can't build your resilience if you don't have the resources and the energy to do so. So my top tips for myself here would be to A, figure out what my own energy cycles look like. We know that there are people who are night owls, and then we know that there are those annoying people who are morning people. And now, by the way, you know which one I am. Figure out when you get the best out of yourself. What I typically do is, if I know that I have a really big, important piece of work to do, I don't do it at 7 o'clock in the morning, because the chances are that I'm not really tapping into my night owl strength. But if I do want to connect with people on a more personal level and be more sociable, then actually slightly earlier in the morning might be better for those kinds of activities. So figure out what your energy cycles look like. Also make sure that you keep those energy levels topped up. Make sure you sleep enough. Make sure you drink enough water. Get exercise. One of the first things that often slip when we are very busy or under stress is exercise. And in fact, it's one of the best ways to counteract anxiety and depression and all the other things that could very easily creep in. So find ways to keep your body active and on the go. But also, when it comes to perseverance, go right all the way back to that dressing room mirror. Find someone who can give you perspective on what it is that you are facing. And a mentor is really helpful here. Because sometimes we are so close to a problem that we can no longer understand or see where the solutions may be. And actually finding someone who can just help us step back, just look over that horizon, is a really, really good way for us to be able to see where that out might lie and what it is that we need to do to deal with and tackle this next challenge. So perseverance, build your own resilience as a matter of importance so that you can get through all the dark times. We are in a brave new world, but it is still a beautiful world. And despite all the things that we see around ourselves that might feel incredibly challenging, I assure you, we can do this. We are on a beautiful planet with beautiful people. Let's connect with each other, let's support each other, and go back to your old self, to your younger self. Sit down today and write a letter to that younger self and say, here are the things that I wish you'd known. And in writing that, what you may find are all the opportunities that you have to really build this authentic, spirit-seeking, opportunity-seeking self that you need to build all the skills for tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me. You are very welcome to get hold of me on LinkedIn. Here is the Academy details in case you have some questions for me there. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elmarie. That was very insightful. I love your mention of the fact that we should constantly ask questions, because, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. And the best way to innovate is to understand the world around you, especially in this ever-changing world that we live in. Just a few questions before you leave.
Yes.
Someone was asking how to get access to your leadership training.
Okay. So I'm assuming this refers to that self-authoring piece of the leadership training. The easiest way is to just Google Future Authoring. It's by Professor Jordan Peterson from the University of Ontario. There's a small fee involved, but there's also a free version of that particular program that you can tap into. Synthesis themselves run leadership training for our internal staff and employees, which we call the Leadership Academy. But there's also a number of other leadership resources you can tap into. One of my favorites from a reading perspective is the Harvard Business Review. There are amazing resources on that site that can show you a variety of really, really good tried and tested leadership behaviors and how to develop them. And it's a great way to start. Alternatively, there are other places where you can tap into leadership training. And one of the great places would be to find that mentor and together with them pick something that is appropriate for you, where you are in your life and with the work that you are doing.
Awesome, thank you. Just one last one. How do you effectively balance between a successful career as well as a healthy lifestyle?
This is always a challenge, right? And I know from personal experience, it's not that easy to get right, because we all want to really deliver good work, but it's so easy to then put yourself second or forget what it is that you are doing. One of the strategies that work for me personally is to schedule time for myself. And whether that scheduling of time for myself is scheduling when I'm going to have my run, or scheduling when I'm going to spend some time on reading something completely unrelated to the field that I'm in, or whether it is scheduling that half an hour over lunchtime to just get out the front door and take a quick walk. Maybe not right now, and maybe just your garden for the quick walk is good enough, but scheduling that time and then keeping that time sacred is really important, because one of the things that happens is you schedule the time, and then when you see again someone's wanting a meeting over that time, and then you go, oh, I really, really have to attend this meeting. You can say, guys, I'd love to attend this meeting, but I have something else for this half an hour that I absolutely cannot move. You have to look after yourself as well. Make sure that you look after you. If your cup is empty, you cannot fill that of anyone else. So you have to make priority for your own well-being as well. The other great thing, of course, is find a hobby. Find a hobby that's completely unrelated to what you do and make time for that. Take up tap dancing or a painting class. Doing something really creative actually helps us to access our subconscious, where very often some of the practical challenges that we work with on a daily basis gets processed. And then we get those amazing aha moments with real creative solutions to the problems that we face. So look after yourself.